because we have 2 swings actually here. So of course we're gonna draw into the 2 heals. Vanguard 18. That's it. Hey y'all, how's it going everyone? Entropy here today with another video. Today's video is going to be a deck profile on set 15's new addition to Genesis, the waifu Minerva. Now, for those who are planning to play Genesis or just have a few cards laying around, honestly Genesis is a pretty easy deck to build. You know, we just had the Descend of the Goddess Descend event, where you could exchange up to 4 triple rares of your choice. Of course, they're old units, but you know, they're some key pieces. And then we also had the Regalia medal for hitting the rank fight target. So that's cool. You know, get a free Minerva there. And in the coming months, we will also be seeing Angelica, the break ride, as a rank reward. So that's you know, pretty free to me. Of course, Artemis, if you've been playing in the past, Artemis was also a rank reward. Not that you should be playing it, but it's still a substitute if you don't have all your pieces yet. So overall, seems like a pretty decent deck to build. Pretty easy to piece together if you've been putting ample amounts of effort into the game. So let's get started. First of all, go to your options, turn on manual soul blasting. I don't know if you turned it on, but generally speaking, turn it on. And I would really recommend you to turn off animations. Of course, I'm going to be showing them off here. But Genesis is a deck that requires you to make a lot of combos and plays. So turning these off effectively gives you more time and more, you know, space for thinking and playing things out. Okay, so that's my recommendation. Of course, if you like the animations, keep it on. But you gotta think quick sometimes. In terms of the list, there are so many different variants. There's a break ride focus variant. There's turbo variants. Personally, I find the turbo variants much more effective. You're waiting for less. You need less setup. And the break ride doesn't really synergize the best with Minerva. It takes too much setup, in my opinion. I have been playing Yatta as something that I've been testing with, and I think it's pretty good. But honestly, I'm still leaning towards Fortuna. So this is the build I've been playing throughout my live streams, and it's slightly different because we got the last copy of Minerva, but overall it's the same idea. So if you want to hear my thoughts or see more games, go check out my live streams. I'll try to link them. If I didn't, let me know. So here's the list. Minerva, Fortuna. We're going to be playing a new starter, Battle Maiden, Amino Hoakari. Alright, let's just call it Battle Maiden. Forerunner, when rode upon, move it to a rearguard circle. When this boosts, Soul Charge 1. Generally speaking, put this behind your Vanguard. We're playing this instead of the other starter. The other one's still pretty good. You know, the one that, you know, on boosting grade 3, go into Soul. Soul Charge 2 until you Soul Charge 2 non-triggers. Put all the triggers, Soul Charges back to the deck. The good thing about this card is that you can actually Soul Charge starting from turn 1, from the first attack, from grade 1 if you're going second. So it helps you fuel up the 3 soul that you need when you move into Minerva. Soul Charge 1 on grade 1, Soul Charge 2 on grade 2, Soul Charge 3rd on grade 3. In addition, it is a 5k booster. Sometimes you do need that booster when you restand. The other one tucks into the soul. You don't get that unit anymore. But this stays on the board so you can use it as a booster whenever you want. So it's really flexible when you're playing a restanding Vanguard, right? Next, grade 1s, we're playing 4 Sentinels. Of course, you're playing this. There's no other option. We're playing 3 Valencia, which is still really good. It's your ideal ride target. In your soul, when this is put into the drop zone, you can soul charge until you have a total of 2 non-triggers. Put all triggers back into the deck. Great way to filter out non-triggers from your deck and set up the pieces that you want in your soul, such as itself, right? We played 2 Apple Witch Cider. Now, originally I was playing 1, and then I tried 4 of this. I think 2 or 3 is Apple. You can play around with the Valencia numbers. 2 Cider is pretty good. On place, your Vanguard gets the following ability during your opponent's turn. Put activated Sentinels, so if you're at 5th damage or whatever, put it into your soul instead. And retard rearguards into your soul instead of the drop zone. So this is really great. Helps you fuel up the soul for your last push if you need that, if you're at 5. But mostly it's for, you know, as a boost target, you need your bodies for your plays. We're not playing any of the Melissas, so 7k body as a booster is really important. And we have a lot of grade 2s that want to be tucked into your soul, so make use of that. Even if you're drawn to them. And lastly, we play 4 Pineapple Law. I think Pineapple Law is necessary, especially if you're playing the Turbo variant. Being able to just go into 4, even if your opponent doesn't give it to you, is really valuable. Get started with your restanding or Fortuna drive checking. It's really good, really underrated. And I made a video about censorship in Vanguard and Vanguard 0 as well. And we're finally seeing some implications of it, because in Japanese, a list that topped was actually playing the grade 2 self-damagers, and we don't have the liberty to do that in global. With that said, I still think that the turbo build is still very valid, and I think it's the approach that I agree with the most. But one thing that, you know, kind of disturbs me is that the eyes of Pineapple Law seems kind of like, you know, off, but it's a really good card. Call it out, 6k booster. And start going into LB4 before your opponent gives you LB4. Next, we're playing 4 Chamomile, I don't know. So people keep correcting me. I keep getting it wrong. I can't help it. I'm so sorry. Someone correct me one last time before I embarrass myself. Witch of Ravens. In your soul during your turn, when this is put into the drop zone, Counter must want to call this out and give it +3, so it's a 12k attacker. Let's do multi-attack. It's just really solid, and even if you don't want to use it as a multi-attack option, if you just don't have the bodies, you can just Soul Blast it and call it back out, right? So it's really solid like that. 4 Grappas, Witch of Grapes Grappa. This is the same as Valencia, except grade 2. Honestly, the ideal ride target is either this or this. Depends on how many soul you think you'll collect. Like, if you're playing against a clan that can retire your starter, that prohibits yourself from continuing that soul charge and kind of amassing that 3 soul at minimum that you need, then riding Grappa is probably ideal. If not, then riding Witch of Ravens is probably better, so you can actually set up a body and multi-attack consistently. And we play 3 Hesperus, Twilight Regalia Hesperus. In your soul, when this is put into the drop zone, your Vanguard gets the following ability. When this attacks the Vanguard, retire one of your opponent's rear guards. You can't use this to retire intercepts because there's no intercept retire. You have to attack through both intercepts before going to face. And one thing to note is that this has the best synergy with Minerva, and not the best with like other cards like Fortuna, for example. Because Fortuna, you know, procs the Soul Blast after it attacks. So remember, if you're gonna use this for like Fortuna, for example, use this, you know, for the Soul Blast 3 plus 5k skill, so you actually have this active before it attacks. Using this for Minerva is probably, you know, pretty good. You know, you can Soul Blast this early, attack, and then reset and attack. You can retire 2. Not really use it too often, but because of the way the deck goes, sometimes you want to snipe out some key pieces, and Hesperus is there for you to do that. It's really good. And we play 2 Broom Witch Callaways. Now, this is a weird pick. I don't see a lot of lists playing this, I don't think. But this is a Vanguard Rigor skill. On hit Counterblast 2, draw 1. Your deck doesn't really use that much Counterblast, especially since we're not playing the grade 1 Melissa, the grade 1 Witch of Ravens, essentially, the 7+3. And your other grade 3s doesn't use much Counterblast except for Minerva that uses Counterblast 1. So you will notice that we're not playing 9 draws, so in that case, sometimes you do need to compensate on your draw power when you just don't hit your 4 draws, or if you just don't, you know, get your pieces together. So Callaway helps you out with that. And use it sparingly because you want to be careful to not, you know, stop yourself from getting those multi-attack plays. But sometimes when you need that draw, it is there, and it's a pretty solid option. We play 4 Minerva. Obviously, it's just really good multi-attack option. At the end of battle, Soul Blast 3, Counterblast 1, discard 2 to stand, draw 2, get +5, and you can always Soul Blast 3 to get +5 anytime during your main phase. So this way you can proc out stuff like Hesperus earlier on, so you can actually attack twice and retire twice. If not, you can still activate it during battle phase, but then you will only retire once during the restand attack. And there's a cross ride with Angelica. I put Angelica as a heal. It's still a great break ride, don't get me wrong, but it's a bit too slow in my opinion. Limit Break 4 when Road Upon, Soul Blast 3 to get your Vanguard +10. Check top 4, add 2 to your hand, and put the rest back to your deck. And then Vanguard Circle, when this attacks, Soul Charge 1 to +1. A good player would basically stall out Angelica and force you to deck out, because you would just keep attacking and soul charging, or just not be able to do anything really, because the deck doesn't really function much other than your big grade 3 plays. Angelica also doesn't really let you Soul Blast during your main phase, unlike the other grade 3s, so you can't really proc stuff like this or this to actually help you fuel your game plan. So that's why I don't really like it as a first ride target, but mostly you're playing it because it's an option on your break ride turn. If you're both at 4, if your opponent's like, you know, gives you the 4, if you break ride Minerva on top of it, it's pretty big. But one of the issues I have with it is that, you know, Angelica requires Soul Blast 3 and Minerva also requires Soul Blast 3. So if your opponent snipes stuff like this early, then you can't really get that 6 soul to actually proc everything off perfectly. And so yeah, overall I think that Angelica not the best in this meta, I don't think, especially with Kagero being pretty popular and like Link Joker still being pretty decently popular. So that's why I think Minerva is just the ideal first ride target. But we also have Fortuna as a backup ride target. We know what this card does. When you drive check a card that's not a trigger Soul Blast 3, add it to your hand and drive check another. Another thing is that it has a non-LB4 skill, which is when you drive check two triggers, essentially, you get to perform an additional drive check. So 3 drive checks. If you sack, you get to sack harder, which is really good. And this way you get to actually mitigate the lack of hand issues that you might face sometimes, and actually pick up some pieces. And lastly, we play 1 Ibanage Hime. This card's pretty decent. If your opponent's at 4 or 5, Soul Blast Text, retire all your opponent front rows to actually just go face. Pretty solid like that. But overall, I feel like the deck performs pretty well. If you don't go Minerva, you go Fortuna. And in some matchups, you want to pick which one you want. If your opponent doesn't, like, if your opponent is a grindy deck, maybe you want to go for Fortuna to actually add some resources to your hand if you missed your drive checks. And yeah, if your opponent's playing a slow deck, Angelica is an option. But generally speaking, the deck functions pretty well, and let's just go see how the deck goes in play. Alright, so let's see how this goes. I mean, overall, I've been testing very different variants again. I feel like the Yatta variant is not bad as well, but the issue is, you know, it's mainly used as like a first ride target before you go into Minerva, and if that's the case, might as well go for Angelica plays. Yatta is nice, but Soul Blast 9 is a bit hefty, and the deck doesn't revolve around that play. So it is, I find it a bit awkward at times. But here, let's go back to the game. Ideal ride target is Valencia, we don't see that. Ideal ride target is one of these cards that proc in Soul. Everything else can kind of go back. Not really that relevant. We see the Valencia, that's really good. We also see the Pineapple, that can help our Minerva Turbo. Playing against Jewel Knights. Alright, it's our turn. Drawing into triggers. Ride this. Generally speaking, again, we're going to put the starter behind the Vanguard. This way, when we attack, there's always something on our Vanguard circle. There's not always something on our front row rearguard circles that we don't need to commit as much to guarantee that we get the soul on boost when we want to. And we do want the soul. We do want the soul. Miranda. Okay. So here we have the option of Fortuna or Minerva. In some matchups, when you're lacking in card advantage, going for Fortuna is better. If your opponent's already at 4 or 5 or something, then, you know, go Minerva anyways. But just speaking, Minerva better when you have the resources to actually pay the cost. And here, let's just go for Chamomile, Witch of Ravens. And we want to soak up some damage, so let's just do this. We got another one in the soul, that's pretty good. We want to be put at 3. That's where we want to be. Put out the Pineapple Law and start multi-attacking. One thing is to not be afraid of just calling on to a rearguard with the Witch of Ravens. Setting up that multi-attack option is important, and even if you lose something like another grade 2 or grade 3 in the front row, that's okay. And sometimes you want to do that not because you want the multi-attack, but you want the defensive option, right? Like if you don't draw into grade 2s, then you can still, you know, use the Soul Blast to call out a grade 2 to the front row. We see our opponent drive checking 2 PGs. That's really good for us, not good for them. Here, I think we can go for Minerva. Go for the waifu. Let's call out a grade 3. We haven't seen the heal trigger yet, but I'm prioritizing damage here. 13k numbers because of random soul charge, and we did draw into a PG, which is really good. Really crucial, because we're essentially giving our opponent break rod, right? Ashley into Ashley. If they went to Salome and we didn't draw into the PG, we would have lost. We could have lost. A bit risky, but sometimes that's the play. Tremmy. Pineapple Law. That's the 4. Did they shuffle? They did, right? Yeah, they called something out and then they shuffled, and it's the same 2 PGs back to the bottom of the deck. Alright, so there's no reason to actually rewrite here. Except if you want that extra soul, sometimes you do. I don't think it's necessary here though. Is it? I mean, I guess it's okay. I guess we can do that. 1 extra soul, we can use this. We want to use this because we want to be want to get that extra 5k, you know, multi-attack when your opponent's at 5. We're gonna call on the top of that Minerva later, so that is fine. Attack, don't need the booster right here. Trigger. So at most they have 1 more PG in hand. Right, so. Given that they only have 1 more PG in hand, there's no reason to call the other one out. Because we have 2 swings actually here, so. Of course, we're going to draw into the 2 heals. Reward 18. That's it. Ah, the PG. That's the 3rd one. So that was unfortunate on our opponent's end. We were playing a bit risky too. So let's try again and see how this deck can play more conservatively, I guess. Let's throw things on the wall and hope it sticks. But yeah, our opponent was really unlucky there. They drove check 2 PGs and the 3rd one was on top of their deck. So that's not good. That's not good. But yeah, you can kind of see, like, we didn't really get to use the Pineapple Law, but if our opponent kind of didn't give us the 4th damage, then we can call it the Pineapple Law and, you know, apply the pressure even though they didn't want us to, or they tried to play around us. Link Joker, it's an okay matchup. We have the right target here, we have one of the right targets here. It's pretty good. Going second, you're valuing these souls less, because your starter can actually go multiple times. Maybe consider Fortuna, but I think Minerva is better for this matchup. Because if your opponent locks your front row, then you still want to get those attacks in, and that's where Minerva comes and plays well. If you're going first, you value the oranges and grapes more because your starter only boosts twice. Once in your grade 2 turn, once in your grade 3 turn. And so in that case, sometimes on your first grade 3 turn, you already want to be LBing with Minerva. And so the starter's kind of opportunity to actually fuel up that soul count is lower. So honestly, I like going second in this deck. It helps you draw more, you know, start with 1 extra card, which is important because you're not playing 9 draws, and lets you use your starter more often. And that's a distinction that I feel like not a lot of people talk about, like the advantages of going first and second. But I think it's an important topic to bring up. Like, some decks want to go first, some decks want to go second, and yeah, I think it's quite important. Mobius Breath, we see a PG going to the bottom of the deck again, which is good for us. Okay, so we can't use the starter, so we can compensate with our Grappa. Next ride might be Fortuna, so the Grappa is pretty good. At the same time, though, Hesperus is pretty solid as well, because we can be sniping those Palladiums, right? Thinking. Oh, gotta think. We already have a Valencia. I think it's okay to go for Hesperus. Call one of these out. Let's see what happens if we hit a trigger. We do. Don't think that 14 is going to hit though, because at minimum there'll be a 19, but crits win games. They heal though, so it doesn't matter, I guess. And we are 15k away from hitting, so Mobius Breath is big. Big. And I feel like the matchups that Jensen's performs the worst at least this build, because it's a turbo build, are the matchups that can actually mitigate your starter. Because your starter is your key piece that actually gives you the consistent soul that you need for your costs. So stuff like Kagero or Narukami or Link Joker, primarily the first and the last. These are popular matchups that that Genesis have a harder time with because, you know, stuff like the starter, get rid of them, it's kind of a hard time. I'm gonna go Fortuna for this match. Not the most ideal, as we said, we'd rather go Minerva, but we gotta play the hand we're dealt. We can actually Soul Blast to get rid of the Fenrir, but there's no much reason to do that. Callaway is okay. Draw a card. Hopefully draw a booster or something, or like a Pineapple Law would be good. Yeah, there we go. Boost, Soul Charge. Oh, that's good. Witch of Ravens. I like to see that. Angelica, discard fodder. PG, that's good. So here, if our opponent commits 2 to the front row, then they'll put us to 4. Assuming we don't hit a trigger. But if they don't, we can always Pineapple Law, and it's a good time. It's a good time. Okay. Draw trigger. No need to rewrite. We're gonna call out Pineapple Law. Call this out. Gonna multi-attack. Oh, not a trigger. Oh no! Let's keep that for later. Call this a front row. Now we have a 12k column. But we'll probably be hitting triggers, right? We'll probably be hitting triggers. If we see a crit trigger or something, then our rearguard can guarantee to hit. Alright, power. No, do we want this though? We don't really want this. Not really necessary, I don't think. Let's not invoke it. Can't believe we have 4 crits and we didn't see one. Alright, PG. We saw 1 in damage, 1 in the drop zone, we saw 1 in the bottom of the deck. So, you know, 1-ish left in hand. We'll see how it goes. And of course, if you're seeing a lot of like Joker and you don't like it, I get it. And Genesis does have an on-place unlocker too, so you can play that as the one-off instead. That is an option. Now the question is, will they front row lock with CBD? A bit low on hand. Don't know why they didn't use the Fenrir last turn. They will, okay. Palladium. And with Palladium, we can actually snipe it by purposely Soul Blasting Hesperus. But might not be necessary since our opponent doesn't have an Intercept or a grade 2. Oh, there we go. The 1 of 4 crits. Draw trigger, so they might draw into PG. Heal though, doesn't matter because we're at 5 already. Fenrir, drawn to PG, probably. So here we're just gonna Soul Blast to get rid of the Palladium. Value that over the drive check because the extra crits don't really matter here, unless our opponent gets lucky and hits the heal. But I prioritize the guaranteed retire. Pretty good, pretty good. Crit. Did we get another crit? Nope. And that's it. Fortuna goes for the kill. Opponent has 1 heal left in deck, so it doesn't matter. And that is a game. So I feel like you can see from the games, there are so many directions you can go with the deck. Like both Minerva and Fortuna are great boss units. Of course, ideally you're going to go for Minerva, but even if you go into Fortuna, you have a lot of plays possible. And the deck has a lot more tools right now than ever before. You have more non-trigger soul charging. You have retiring. You can multi-attack with your rearguards or your Vanguard. You can drive check more. You can retire front row. There's just so much stuff you can do. So remember to actually try to take some time to understand each piece. Pick and choose the tools that you want in your toolbox, because everyone is different. You know, if you want to prioritize more of the guaranteed non-trigger soul charging, play more Valencias. If you want to play more aggressively earlier on, play more Siders. Do all that. Play more 12k beaters if you want to. If you think that hand size is not a problem, drop the witches, the Camelus 2, draw 1 witches, play more 12k beaters or something. I don't know. There's so many ideas. Let me know down below what your list is, what your favorite piece from this deck is. I think that's really interesting. I actually, you know, I just like Minerva. Great restander, great waifu, great art. That's all you need to know. And deck is pretty good. Then yeah, like the video if you like it, subscribe if you haven't already. Again, if you want more footage of me playing Genesis Minerva, go check out my live streams where we talk about the kind of build. Of course, I didn't have a experience with the complete build because that one extra Minerva kind of changes things because it's a bit more consistent because you're playing 4 instead of 3. But overall, this idea is the same. I think everything else is the same. But yeah, deck is pretty good. That's all you need to know. Hope you enjoyed. It's a pretty fun deck, and stay safe. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.